Hi, I'm Rachel, and this is my February 2018 book haul. But before I get started on that, I just got back from the dress rehearsal for my Purim spiel. A Purim spiel is a spoof play that Jews do at Purim, sort of to spoof the Megillah reading, which also happens on Purim, which is the Book of Esther. So we do like a chapter of reading the Megillah, and then we do a spoof of it with actors and singing and all of that. I'm in the choir. We're spoofing The Lion King, and we have our little program in here. And then here I am listed on the back because it seems like I'm just always using this channel to prop myself up and give myself airs. Also, this shirt is part of the ensemble. A couple weeks ago, the Cantor emailed us with an Amazon link and said if you're in the chorus, pick one of the jungle shirts. And so they all have big faces on them like this. So I have the white tiger, and it's my Purim costume. I've never been quite that good at making my own up, so it's kind of nice to have one dictated to me. So yeah, tomorrow night starts Purim, and I'll be performing The Lion King of Persia, and hopefully it'll be a good production, because actually our dress rehearsal was the traditional kind of iffy one. The Cantor's actually getting a little sick, so hopefully that won't continue until tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, I had the shirt on, so I thought I'd take a little bit of time to talk about that. And also, I don't have a lot of books. In fact, I only bought one book this month, and it's not even here. The ones I have to show you are all library books. I think that's going to be the main gist of my hauls nowadays, or at least I hope it will for most of them, because I am trying to buy fewer books. So to start with, I've been talking for months about this nonfiction project I had lined up for 2018, and in March I am finally getting off my druthers and starting to read some nonfiction books. I'm reading 3 books that were in the running for the 2008 Sammy Rohr Prize, which awards fiction or nonfiction per year for emerging Jewish authors. And so the first book I have to show you, I got from the holds in the library, is this one. It is The Man in the White Sharkskin Suit, My Family's Exodus from Old Cairo to the New World by Lucette Lugnato. And it is a memoir. I'm going to start with what I know in nonfiction about this Egyptian Jewish woman's family's exodus from Cairo, as the title suggests. So this next book I just got from Interlibrary Loan. This is The Price of Whiteness, Jews, Race, and American Identity by Eric L. Goldstein. I am moving away from memoirs and into social history, because this one in particular is of extreme fascination to me, about how Jews are perceived in this country, because it's changed a lot in the last 100+ years. 100 years ago, I don't think Jews and other groups would have been considered white, but now we are. And I could talk vaguely about it, or make assumptions, but now I have this book, which will hopefully give me some actual answers and some actual history, so that I could learn about this this phenomenon. So I'm very excited. And then the third book that I wanted to read, I couldn't find through the library or Interlibrary Loan, so I gave myself permission to buy a used copy on Abe's Books. It's meaning that it's cheap, and that also I don't have to pay shipping, but it does mean that it takes a while to get here, alas, so I'm still waiting for it. Wine, my life is so hard. But the book is called Houses of Study, A Jewish Woman Among Her Books by Ilana M. Bloomberg, and it's a memoir by a modern Orthodox woman and her life, but it particularly focuses, I believe, upon her religious education and yeshivot and other places where she learned about the religion, which, when it comes to Orthodoxy, you stereotypically, think about that with boys and men. They're the ones who get to learn and study, and the women are at home having kids and baking challah or something. So I'm really intrigued to see what her experience was like. So those three books are part of my personal Sammy Rohr Jewish nonfiction project. This one is for my book club. It's what we're going to be discussing late in March. This is Among the Living by Jonathan Rabb, and I picked it up from the DC Public Library. And I figured, since I'm kvetching about libraries, or maybe I'll just start now, it was annoying. I tried to get it yesterday, but it had a hold on it, so I couldn't. I mean, it wasn't this book in particular that had a hold on it. It's just that, you know, there's several copies of this book, which is why it was in the running for my book club. And one person had requested a hold, and the library hadn't put it through yet. And there were a bunch of available copies, but I couldn't check out a copy until a librarian wherever, you know, was able to put that hold in and, you know, send it off to wherever it needed to go. So, but by today they did that, and I was able to go during my lunch break, because, you know, that's what you do, to the library again and get this book. I actually voted for this book in our survey, because that's how my book club chooses books, because I had the notion that it had won some awards or had good reviews, but upon further research that doesn't necessarily seem to be the case. Well, no awards that I could tell, and the Kirkus review was a little middling. I mean, I liked parts of it, but I think Kirkus said this book tried to stuff a little bit too much in. But, you know, enough about awards and good reviews. I'm also just really intrigued by the premise, which I will read now. In late summer 1947, 31-year-old Yitzhak Golda, a Holocaust survivor, arrives in Savannah to live with his only remaining relatives. They are Abe and Pearl Jessler, older, childless, and an integral part of the thriving Jewish community that has been in Georgia since the founding of the colony. There, Yitzhak discovers a fractured world where Reform and conservative Jews live separate lives, distinctions to him that are meaningless given what he's been through. He further complicates things when, much to the Jesslers' dismay, he falls in love with Eva, a young widow within the Reform community. When a woman from Yitzhak's past suddenly appears, one who is even more shattered than he is, Yitzhak must choose between a dark and tortured familiarity and the promise of a bright new life. Set amidst the backdrop of America's post-war South, Among the Living grapples with questions of identity and belonging and steps beyond the Jewish experience as it situates Yitzhak's story during the last gasp of the Jim Crow era. Yitzhak begins to find echoes of his own experience in the lives of the black family who work for the Jesslers, an affinity he does not share with the Jesslers themselves. This realization surprises Yitzhak and convinces him that his choices are not as clear-cut as he might have thought. So yeah, I guess you could tell how there's kind of a lot in here. Like, there's a relationship with an American woman, and there's a relationship with someone from his past, and then there's also this cultural stuff about a Holocaust survivor coming across the Jim Crow South and what he makes of it, which frankly is the part that well, it interests me, maybe the second. I admit something that very much interests me in this is how the American Jewish community is depicted. I'm always fascinated by books that go into the progressive strains of Judaism, into the Reform and conservative movements, and talk about their history. And so that's something that I'm very drawn to. But I'm also particularly drawn to this relationship that Yitzhak might have with black members of the community, and also just in general about the Jewish community in Georgia. It's, you know, speaking of the price of whiteness over there, something I think about is how Jews in the South and Jews in the North have had it maybe a little different, because there's less racial diversity and ethnic diversity in the South, and there's sort of a lot more black and white. That's how I see it anyway. So that I think Jews might have been seen more as white for longer in the South than in the North, where there's a lot of other ethnic groups. But that's something I guess maybe I'll find out more about in that other book. But in this book, I just love fiction for the emotional character drives and how, you know, particular people are able to interact with that. You get something deeper than just scholarship. I'm just putting my props behind fiction, I gotta say, you know. This one's my baby, teen fiction, but I'm going to give my nonfiction a try too. Yeah. And finally, I checked out 2 more books for my take on the page 112 tag. I was able to find them and just take them off the shelves. No complications beyond that. It's always quite fun to just, walk in and take a book off the shelves and not have to pay for it. Anyway, the 2 books are these 2, which I added to my Goodreads TBR like 4 years ago, I think. It's An Italian Wife by Anne Hood and The Marrying of Honey Kaufman by Eve Harris. And so anyway, the way I do the page 112 tag, which was started by Sean the Book Maniac, is that I take 2 books that have been on my TBR forever, and I read page 112 from both of them, and then I decide, based on the writing, which one I'm actually going to read, and the other one will go. And that way, I get to shave off my TBR a bit quicker than reading both of them. There's only so much time in life, after all. Anyway, I've only done this tag once so far, but the book that I chose, All I Love and Know by Judith Frank, ended up being my favorite so far book of the year. So hopefully my luck will continue and I'll be able to tell from the writing and know myself from the writing well enough to pick a book that I'll really like. We'll wait and see. I think I'll do the page 112 tag on my next damn reading. So that about covers it for me now. I'm gonna go, gotta get something to eat. I think I'm gonna practice my Purim songs one final time before the big show tomorrow night, and have a busy day tomorrow because of this call time. It's sort of nestling into my work schedule, so I'm having to get into work earlier, or I should, so I don't like early mornings, but this is for a good cause. It'll be a fun day, maybe a little exhausting. I'll check back in with all of you in March. Hope you all had a great February and looking forward to the new month. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.